all. Hello, all. So we're going to go ahead and just go and get started. And remember, our title of our lesson is Only God Can Judge Me. Matthew chapter 7. So where we're going, where we're at. Remember our little introduction where the woman says, we can't, just in summary, says, we can't be the judge, jury, and executioner. That's God's job, since only he knows the heart. Okay. Some questions we should ask ourselves. Are these people correct? Should we ignore sin, false doctrine, erring congregations, etc., because only God can judge? Consider the following. How would you ever teach anything? If you teach someone to be baptized for the remission of their sins, haven't you judged them as a sinner? If you approach a brother in error as commanded, haven't you judged him? If you give someone that has a need, haven't you judged them as needy? So just some questions to think about when we talk about this subject or this topic. Okay. We looked at the definition of judge, and the Bible actually took us back to judges as rulers. And so we had different forms of it. Looking at Strong's Concordance says to judge or decide. So how do we look at the term judge? Our historical perspective. And we did verse 1 and 2. That's as far as we got. So verse 1 and 2 is as far as we got. And we won't judge not that you be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you. So we have done this and we're moving forward because we may just, this may be it. And we're doing Matthew 7, 3 through 5. Those are the verses that we're starting with. And just to think about, to read those verses, says, and why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, the beam is in thine own eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. And if y'all like my little cartoon, the little guy says, dude, I think I got some in my eye. The other guy is saying with the beam. Now he's saying I got a little something in my eye. This one has big beam in his. Hey, don't worry, I'll help you get it out. How? Okay. So that's where we are. I've read the scriptures. So, all right, Pastor. We're looking for you. So just, I mean.
Don't you have something? You don't have anything?
I'm sure I do. You go ahead and get started. And then I'll.
All right. Remember, we are at the last, this is pretty much the end of the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus is still talking to the group that's there. And he's talking to them about their attitudes and about how they see each other. And he's also giving nuggets to kingdom living, how we're to treat each other in the kingdom, and then how we treat those who are still in the world. And he says, why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own? Of course, Jesus is playing on words. Jesus shows how we are far more tolerant to our own sin than we are to the sins of others, to the sin of others. Most of the time, the little things that's happening in our lives, we can look over them. Or I think we've all had issues, or we've had occasions where someone was quite hypocritical in our presence. And we, you have some instances where you say, I don't believe they said that. All the trouble that they're keeping up. And they're telling me, don't keep up trouble. This happens often with children. This happens often on jobs. I believe at the moment it's happening in various countries in terms of the wars and the, excuse me, and the things that are taking place. Oftentimes, it's easy to see someone else's problem. And then it becomes very difficult to see our own, especially if we don't face Jesus. If we don't face Jesus and do self-inventory on a regular basis, we will continually have problems of our own that are not dealt with. And we can always see the issues with someone else. And we want someone else to see the issues. We want someone else to deal with it. It's akin to um, a nurse teaching and working in a an area where she's telling everyone smoking is bad and that they should not smoke because it's killing them. And that's her job or his job. That's their job. And they're telling them that. And that same person, after they've given all that speech and given all that information and given all that restitution as to what to do, that same person goes out and sees them smoking. It's a very difficult task. What is I think the saying is, don't do as I say, or
Don't do as I do, do as I say.
don't do as I do as I say. Is that
I
it? Or
think
don't do as
that's-
I say, do what I do as I do.
Don't do what I do,
do as I say. And so many times, I think Jesus is making it pretty clear here, and he's using an incredible example. I mean, you're not going to have a beam in your eye, of course. You're not going to have a plank in your eye or beam, actually, in some translations. But he's over exaggerating just so that everyone can understand that we really have to do self-inventory in order to be able to treat each other right, and certainly to treat others who have problems right. What is some of the first things that we hear besides don't judge me? It is, you got your chance to do your sinning, or you had a chance to do what you had to do. You made your mistakes. I should be able to make mine. Well, that's one of the categories to where they have great problems. Or don't you hear people get on someone else about something that they do all the time? That's having a plank in their eye. Or someone who demands something of your children in a particular setting and has no demands on their own children in a particular setting. That's having a plank in their eye.
So it's basically being hypocritical.
Absolutely.
So do you think that people are saying that and mean that when they're saying only God can judge me or don't judge me? You think the underlying saying is don't be hypocritical, or you did or not? And this is not just for you, it's for everybody. So anybody can answer. I mean, because that's the title. Don't only God can judge.
Sometimes they're sincere with thinking that they're okay. That's why Jesus is using such a broad example. I believe some people really feel like they've arrived and they're okay. They think that they're okay. They think they're all right. So their goal and their job in their mind is to work on you. And after so long, we forget to do self-inventory. We forget that we may not be treating people the way we want to be treated. That's coming soon. That particular verse is coming. We forget that we're people that need Jesus like everyone else. That we have a penchant for sinning like everyone else. That we were born into sin and shaped into iniquity like everyone else. And it's easy to have gotten over certain hurdles and then forget that there is still a need to work on self, that there's still a need to be sure that we're prayerful, to be sure that we're humble, to be sure that we're laying before God and not just seeing issues in our brethren.
Don't you find it interesting that it's saying that the brother has a moat, or if you look at it as a speck, but I got this plank or a bead.
Yeah.
The contrast is quite.
Yeah, he was over exaggerating.
Right.
To get the point across.
It's interesting.
I mean, to get the point across, he was over exaggerating. But sometimes what's in my life and what my problem is, it looks like a beam to some people.
Okay.
To some people, it looks like it looks like a beam.
Okay.
But
All right.
the little problem that they have in their mind, it's nothing. What I'm saying is, and this is up for debate. Y'all jump in. What I'm saying is, what someone else might think is a beam, I may feel like it's a moat.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Okay. Somebody may see it bigger than what
yeah,
okay.
I might feel like it's a moat. And I might say, they said, well, you got a problem? Yeah, I got a little problem,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not like you. You got a big problem. And so don't worry about me. You got a big problem. And I'm really the one with the beam, with the plank. And so I think what Jesus is saying clearly, and I said, I think
Mm-hmm.
this is up for debate. I think what Jesus is saying clearly is that it's necessary that we continually do self-inventory, so we're not constantly putting our sins before everyone else, or I'm sorry, so we're not constantly trying to fix someone else, and we haven't paid any attention to what we may be doing or may not be doing. A policeman that has a job, that has a job stopping people from speeding.
I actually had that one as an example. Yeah.
Speeds themselves.
Right.
And they have this penchant to stop people from speeding. They have a passion for it. They get on the job, they give a passion for it. That would be equivalent or synonymous to a plank in their eye.
Okay.
Not understanding why people speed, or not looking at the psyche of it. In many cases, Jesus is just saying, before I get ready to correct you, I need to make sure that I've done self-inventory. I need to make sure. Do you think, here's a question, because nobody talked back to me today. Here's a question. Do you think that Jesus surmised that there are many people who were just trying to fix everyone else? Was he talking about the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Herodians and all of those who, was he talking about the scribes and Levites? Or was he just talking about the general attitude of people in general? Was he being general? Or was he talking about something he was observing?
Good question.
It almost feels like he was speaking about now times right now. So many people now are looking at the others and trying to fix everything. And they're walking in the muck and mire themselves. And it is almost impossible to help anyone else when we have blinders and when we have so many issues ourselves. It's almost impossible. It is literally impossible to help someone else if you need help. Now, it's not impossible. I said literally. There is possibility that you can be a mess and help everyone else out of their mess while you're in yours. But Jesus is talking here again about attitude, about character, about how we're to be sure that we walk humbly,
right?
To be sure that we are doing self-inventory. I keep repeating that. To be sure that we don't become a hypocrite. You look at B says, look at a plank. Look, a plank is in your own eye. Verse 3 and 4. Usually the one with the plank in his own eye would not immediately be aware of it. Now that's pretty critical. Yeah. Oftentimes, whatever the issue may be, it could be that they really don't know that they have an issue. They really don't know that they're being hypocritical. It's as he is blind to his obvious fault. It is the attempt to correct the fault of someone else when we ourselves have the same or greater fault. that earns the accusation. Hypocrite. So many have fallen under that category. So many. So many.
Do you think we don't see, well, you said that, but do you think once we help this other individual, do you think we see our own self, our own fault, or our own problem or issue, or the same issue that individual had? Do you think we become cognizant of it, or no?
I don't know. I have an expanded part of that question.
Mm,
Do you think that maybe we want to help someone else because we don't want them to be like us?
okay,
I
that's a good,
I
that's
know
the
I've got this.
expanded part, right?
I know I've got this problem. I'm
Right.
trying to keep you from having this problem that I have.
Then why don't we work on the problem together?
If I know I have the problem
Right.
and I'm trying to keep you from having the problem I have, am I still a hypocrite?
Did I acknowledge my problem? Why you laugh? Why you laugh?
I'm
So
just
did
asking
I
the
acknowledge
question.
my problem?
I'm just asking the question. If I know I have this problem and my goal is to keep everyone else from having my problem, am I still a hypocrite? If I tell you drinking is really, really wrong, it's a terrible thing to do, and I'm going to be drinking that night, drinking a lot that night.
Well, you made a point of that, an excellent point of that. I hate to say it as a healthcare professional. We were just actually at work, we were saying that, how is it that we're supposed to be telling individuals and it actually telling individuals about eating healthy or that kind of thing. But if we have some type of get together or something in our conference room, and the healthy stuff is the last thing to go. Or you might have one healthy thing there. So, it might not even, we're not even doing it. So we have to, it's a matter of all of it. We being hypocritical or what? So we have to pay attention ourselves,
That question too, because every time you look at some cop show or fire show or any kind of show on TV, they always, after work, find their way of relaxation is to go drinking or they smoking or something. And then the same thing you mentioned, when I look at a lot of the politician gatherings, they're always at places where you can drink. And when you
Yes.
look at business get-togethers, and then we sit up there and we say, how do we solve the reckless driving and the opioid crisis and all that crisis? And I'm like, people aren't going to listen to you because they're looking at what you do or what's the mind that's being played. Even if our police don't do it, we're looking at what's being played as a stereotypical image of them.
Mhm.
And so we're going to say, how can you write me a ticket when in a few hours you getting off of work and going to go drinking?
Yes.
So I think it's kind of, like you said, the scripture is teaching two things. One is looking at ourselves,
Mhm.
and the other one is giving advice. And I think it's interesting because people who really have experienced a lot of things in their life based upon some things that they have done that they know are damaging to their life, then they'll give information. And I think the other part of it is Jesus was looking through a spiritual eye when he taught this too. So it wasn't just it was a spiritual eye. So make sure that when we're addressing spiritual, that we're starting to get in line ourselves.
Amen.
Mm.
Amen. It's character building. It's attitude adjusting.
Mm.
He said in verse 5, first cast the beam out of thine own eye.
Mm.
Then we'll be able to see clearly. So no matter what it is that we're trying to do for someone else, if we're still clouded with the issue, it's going to be very difficult. Or if we're clouded with a heavy issue, it may be difficult to actually advise our brother. It may be.
Can I
And
ask a question? Can this also be making reference to how we even trying to help our brethren or help our sister, and we're doing it all from a human nature instead of seeking God?
Could be. Could be. Jesus is talking about heavenly principles. So very well could be. I mean, he's talking to those that really want to hear what he has to say. And these lessons and these messages that he's given at certain times contrast to what they've been being taught. So yes, he's giving them a different outlook, a different perspective, and it's definitely spiritual, but it's also physical. And Jesus is just trying to reshape the thinking process, reshape how we feel about each other, reshape how we communicate with each other. And if we do these things, we'll become successful. If we do this, and we'll have a greater ability to minister, a greater ability to witness, and certainly we'll have a greater ability to help. And I do agree, Sister Smith, I agree that sometimes he's talking about the way that we help. And if it's going to be physical or spiritual, we simply still have to make sure that our own inventory is kept up.
But why do we always see it as somebody judging though? Or I won't see somebody. I'll take that back. I won't see somebody. I'll say it in the Christian realm.
Why do we see it as
Why do we see it as judging versus anywhere else we can take or get the correction or whatever it is? Why is it that it's so hard for us to accept that from our brother and sister in Christ?
Conviction.
What's that?
Conviction.
Okay.
Conviction is one.
Okay.
It could be, again, relationship. You know, I knew you back then, and I know you. You have no business talking about this to anybody.
But if my life has been changed, you should be able to see that, right?
But I see you before. I don't see you now. Jesus had that issue in his own hometown. I see you growing up. I see you before. I know your roots. I know your daddy was a drunk.
That was my daddy. That ain't got
your
nothing to
mama
do with
was
me.
a drug addict. I know that y'all had a lot of thieves in y'all family. I know this and I know that. And so I think I know you, and you are not qualified to do this. I'll give you all another real life example. In the Black community, especially in the Black community, more so than other communities, if someone gets educated and learns something about particular subjects, there are various Black people that feel like a white person has to tell them that. They just do not believe that a Black person is qualified or has been educated enough. And no matter what you tell them about their health, about their well-being, they just won't receive it until somebody white tells them the same thing. They'll come back and they'll tell you what a white doctor said or a white nurse, and you'll scratch your head and say, that's what I told you. I told you that. They just have this mentality, that it's the way that they see each other, the way they see themselves. And so we have to be careful of that. That doesn't necessarily make them hypocrites. It's just a matter of how we're going to see each other.
But is that a problem with me or a problem that you have?
Well, Jesus just said it's your problem. It's their problem. I mean, Jesus just said that.
Okay.
It's their problem. Look at the last bullet point. Please keep that in mind. Jesus didn't say it was wrong for us to help our brother with the speck in his eye. Because see, I want to be careful and make sure we don't move to that. Some people have the idea, because this is thrown around so much about don't judge me. They have the idea that you're not to approach and help each other when we see a problem. That's not what Jesus is saying here when he's talking about the mote and the plank. Jesus didn't say it was wrong
Right.
to help our brother with the speck in his eye. It's a good thing to help. That should have been yours. I'm sorry. It's a good thing to help your brother with his speck, but not before dealing with the plank in your own eye. Self-inventory can't be expressed more. The more we go before God, lay before God, spiritually and physically, and to make sure that we're submitting ourselves and that we're subject to him and that we're doing the things necessary to be worthy of witnessing, to be worthy of correction, to be worthy of ministering, to be worthy of preaching, and all of that, then we can be sure, or at least to the best of our ability, that we've dealt with our planks. And then we'll be able, clear-eyed, to see our brother, clear-eyed to help our brother. Does not mean that our brethren will accept our help. Doesn't mean that. But it's the spirit and the attitude in which I approach my brother.
Yeah, we've said that.
That's going to make the difference. That's what's going to make the difference. But let's not look at these and think that Jesus is saying, don't help. No, he wants us to help. He wants us to examine the eyes, if that's a proper phrase. He wants us to examine, to make sure that there's nothing in our eyes.
So do you think, people are taking it more personal than what we actually are saying or conveying to individuals? You think they take it more personal? I know we said conviction. I know that. I know she said conviction.
And I think so. Well, it is personal. If I'm talking to you about an issue that you have, that's personal. It's personal. It's going to depend on how I am and who I am in order for them to receive, or maybe they're just not going to receive. And I don't think that we would be remiss if we didn't say that. No matter how clean you are in many cases, no matter how wonderful you are, no matter how you've gotten the plank out of your eye and everything is good, all of your brethren aren't going to receive your help. So you have to know that going in. That should not change your attitude about your brother.
Right. Okay.
Shouldn't change your attitude about yourself. That brother or sister just won't receive your help. So you pray for them. Clearly, you're not the laborer. Clearly, you're not the waterer.
Okay.
Clearly, you're not the cultivator. That's just not you. This person needs someone else. I pray that the Lord send the right one into their life so that they can get the help. And I won't get out of character or move from the attitude and the fervency of helping. Because what happens if you keep trying to help people and they just don't receive your help? It could give you a
complex.
It could, and you're thinking, okay, I'm just not going to try to help these people. I want help. I'm done. You said, okay, Lord, I'm done, Lord. I'm done.
Right.
I'm not going to say another thing. Every time I say something, everybody has a problem. Well, we can't develop that either. None of those. Not too many people are talking to me. What is a mote? We talked about a plank. What's a mote? What's a mote that might be in my eye? Motes symbolize and specks symbolize a small something.
Right.
So you kind of have to know me to see that.
Right.
You can't see it coming. A plank, you can see coming.
And that's why I said that comparison is really, I know we saying it's over exaggerated, but just to think about that, you kind
of have to know me
to see. Well,
Is a moat an idiosyncrasy?
depends on who's doing the who's doing the correction.
There's just certain things that some people don't like. Would that
Or your pet
with
peeve,
or a pet peeve? Would that
but
be a moat? I mean, I grab my ear. You just don't like that. You just don't like it.
no, it maybe the way you grab your ears. What I know.
That's not a moat. A pet peeve is not a moat. An idiosyncrasy is not a moat. You put your socks on the floor instead of in a particular place. That's not a moat.
So moats and these planks are more or less the sins.
Yes, these are issues that would keep us from being
Christ, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that would keep us from being victorious in the body of Christ. So you know, in other words, we're not just going to run around and throw out these scriptures and correct everything everybody's doing.
Right.
We're not going to do that.
Right.
Some things they'll work on. We're not going to attack the character of everyone, because the scripture says, you know, what you doing, man? I'm looking for the moat. What moat? I'm trying to see what's going on with you. When you treat your wife right,
or somebody said, well, I'm looking for the
children right, if you pay your tithes, did you pray? I'm looking for a moat. No, it will be clear. It'll be clear. So will a plank. So we're not just going to attack everything,
right?
Because Jesus told us that, but we're also not going to not say something because we're afraid of being called a hypocrite. It's a fine line, and again, it's an attitude. It's a process. If we're exercising self-inventory, we won't have a problem.
So do you think, now that we're saying this and thinking about it, do you now think that may be why a lot of people won't say, or a lot of Christians who, you know, whose life has changed, won't say what they've been through?
I do.
Of this, because of this very thing?
Partly. Okay. I do.
Okay.
I have one more question, and I'm not trying to drag it out. I'm really not. Okay. Not trying to drag it out. What if I don't feel like I've taken care of the things in my life, so I don't even consider your problem, your moat, because I feel so unworthy. Yes. And I clearly have the skill and the tools to help you. But because of how I feel, I've overly done my inventory. I've reached all the way back, and I've just come to this place, this depressed place today. I'm no good. I'm just no good. I need somebody to help me. I'm going to sit down in the middle of the floor and say, I just need somebody to help me. We can't get there either. I don't want to I keep saying self-inventory, but not to the extent to where we become no good to others. Paul would say that I'm the chief sinner, but he said that gives me the opportunity to recognize what I was doing wrong. And because I know what it is, I can recognize it in someone else. Now, I may not be able to recognize adultery or something of that sort, but maybe some of the other things that I was into in my previous life, I may be able to spot those.
I have just something I have here that says, ironically and unfortunately, it seems like the overwhelming majority of cases where someone plays the judge not card don't actually apply to the judge not command. The one who yells, "Don't judge me, bro," the loudest is typically the one who most needs to hear God's judgment. Those who protest, "Only God can judge me," fail to realize that his word has already done just that.
Yeah. There's a worldly saying that says if you throw a rock, the dog that hollers out is the one that got hit.
Mhm, mhm, mm, mm,
We are commanded to help
mm,
our brethren. We're commanded to do that.
mm,
We have a responsibility to help our brethren. We have a duty to help our brethren. We have more of
mm,
responsibility per Jesus here in these
mhm,
verses to go before him and to be sure that we're getting his help and that we're also receiving help that comes from others
mhm, mhm.
so that we don't enter into the hypocrite status.
Yeah. So self-inventory, key. Self-inventory.
Amen.
That's the old song, and it's Search Me, Lord. So are we saying that, Rail? When we sing, now that I thought about that, I just thought about that. We sing that song, Search Me, Lord. If you
No,
find, right, no, but now if you find anything that shouldn't be, taken out and strengthen me. So
yes,
is that a,
yes, but we're saying, Lord, now what if he does it through somebody else that you don't
well,
like?
but then we made that,
What if,
proclamation.
what if he takes it out through somebody else that you don't like, somebody else that got huge problems? Then how you gonna come tell me when I see what's going on with you? But you just said, search me, Lord.
Right,
And
that's what
take
I'm
it out.
saying. That's what I said. That's why I'm saying it.
And so Jesus is saying that because there are those who are saying, search me, Lord. If you find anything that shouldn't be, take it out. One of his methods might be through other people.
Right.
And so Jesus is saying to us, make sure the plank is out of your eye so I can send you to your brother.
Right.
If I send you to your brother and you got a plank in your eye, then your brother might not receive the help and they're asking me for help.
Mm.
But then I guess you could say, well, why would Jesus send somebody to me with a plank in their eye?
Maybe we're there to help each other.
Questions, so many questions.
I think
Just
there's a level of maturity too that goes with that. Because some people say, well, I'm telling you so you don't repeat the same mistakes I did. You know,
right,
Mhm,
depending on
mhm.
how they were taught or what they watch or whatever, they're like, well, you did it so I can do it. But
right.
I'm one of those where you tell me so I don't bump my head and I can avoid that. Um, but
You just went out.
Yeah, you faded.
sorry, not to get too political, but it's like everybody's saying reach out and help us. And this is a pen for next week or whatever. But I'm looking at the Ukraine situation
Mhm.
and now I'm passing judgment, but okay. Um how y'all know there are black and African Ukrainians.
Right.
All you see on TV is one type, and then you're not hearing how, and one type being helped, and then you're not hearing how these other ones are walking to the border and all of that. And we're judging, not we, but whoever is doing the new, judging Putin and talking about how we gonna help and all of this stuff. And I'm like, we having the same problems.
Well, in this country, and again, we're not going to be political, but in this country, talking about America, if you're going to move our Congress, our country to help someone, you can't show black images because they won't do it.
I posted.
You have to personally make sure that you don't show black images in order to get
Mhm.
Congress to send billions of dollars. Because if you do show black images, Congress will not be together on that and they will not vote to send that. We have all kind of examples: Haiti, Darfur, what was it with the hurricanes? It was
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. We've got a lot of examples where if it's people of color and especially darker color, our Congress is very reluctant to send that kind of help.
Are they judging?
by
Yeah.
by way of color. Yeah, it's just racism. I mean, let's call it what it is.
I
Racism.
posted a video on my page about the Ukrainians and how they're treating the African students. They were pulling them off buses, off of trains, And I was like, I'm over here praying for y'all, and y'all giving my ancestors purity hell
Mhm,
over there. But
mhm.
when I see the news now, I just get a bitter taste. I'm like, oh, our families, yeah, but y'all over there stopping these people from getting back to where they trying to go to.
Right.
And I
Mhm.
said, now wouldn't it be something if the Germans turned around and helped all them Africans get where they need to go and still left y'all where you were, just to get back at you for that?
Mhm. Amen.
Again, you all, that's just the way politics works. If you show those black images, you will not get this country to vote to send aid. That's a fact. That's just a fact.
So the country is just judging all where.
That is a fact. I'm giving you facts. You can
Well,
you
I
can
know that's what
process
you're
it
saying, and
any
that's
way you
what.
want.
But I understand what I'm like Sister Turner. When you think about it, that does put a bitter taste in your mouth. So,
Because they're working through a lens of politics. They're not working through this biblical lens.
right.
So we have to pray for them and pray that God intervene
And pray for ourselves.
yeah, because
Thank you.
we see what we see.
Right.
But facts are facts. That is a fact that they're not going to show those darker images because they're trying to get aid.
Mm.
Once the aid is released, they may show a few images possibly. That's the history of this country, like it or not.
So what I read that they said the purpose of these first, we only did 5, but the first 6 verses basically was saying that Jesus is speaking for us basically not to be hypocritical
Right,
or self-righteous
right.
judgment. That's what he's saying. He's telling us to remove the log, the plank, the beam from our own eyes so that we can see clearly to help someone else.
And you know what that is? Self-inventory.
Self-inventory, right?
A great part of changing our attitude and thinking kingdom and having kingdom thinking is to know that we need the same God, and the same things that we would hold judgment on others, God will hold that judgment on us, and we probably deserve the judgment that God would give. Paul continually reminded everyone that I am a chief sinner. So he took it away from whatever anybody would say. You know, somebody would say, Paul, you persecuted the church. You were horrible to the church. And Paul would say, and show you right. That's an old school black term.
Mm-hmm.
Paul would say, and show you right. I'm the
Very right.
chief sinner. I am not worthy whatsoever of what God has done. But because God blessed me and because he saved me on that Damascus road, that's why I'm out here.
Right.
I am not pretending by any measure to be better than you. He said, in fact, I'm worse than you. I'm the chief sinner. So he took away the argument, which is where our humility will bring us. Once we realize that I got a shirt that says y'all need Jesus, I should modify that word and say y'all need Jesus and I do too. Okay, just so that everybody know that I don't think I've arrived. I'm on the same road. We're traveling, and if you're going to help me, you got ammonia in your eye. We got to get it out, and at the same time, you can get mine out. Let me give you a strategy quickly while you go to that next verse. Here's a strategy. It's my strategy. You don't have to use it. It's my strategy. Whenever someone says to me, and I'm trying to help them, whenever they say to me, but I don't know why you're trying to help me. You can't judge me. You got sin in your life too. I'll stop right there. I said, okay, you're right. And whatever you see, let's stop with you and let's get on me. Whatever you see in my life, if you can help me biblically, let's go for it. Help me because I need it. But after you're done helping me, we're going to go back to you. That's my strategy, because the people will try to deflect. And yes, I know that I need God. I know that I'm a sinner saved by grace, and that now my identity is in heaven now. I'm a citizen of heaven. Now, God knows my name. I'm in the book. And so when something happens, I'll go to him. And Jesus covered everything that I've done and everything that I'm going to do. But I'm going to do my best to not intentionally do something that Jesus has to cover.
It's interesting that you just said that, because I just read, is a piece that I had that says, it was saying there's 4 things or 4 categories of improper improper judgment as Christians that we do. And that was just one of them, is saying that judgment without sufficient information
That's right.
is improper for us to do. So that is interesting that you just said that, you know. So
What about verse 6?
verse
And then
6,
I'm
give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you.
Now, does this sound like a contradiction to what was just said? He just said to help. He just said to do all these things. And now he's saying, don't give your pearls to swine. Interesting, isn't it? You see the title, Balancing Love with Discernment. Now, I have to be very careful how I'm determined that I'm so determined I'm going to help someone. I'm all prayed up. I'm all cleaned up, at least in my mind anyway. And I'm ready. And I'm seeking out motes. I'm a mote inspector.
Your mote
I'm a mote inspector. I'm looking for motes. Give me somebody I can help. I'm plank free. I'm prayed up. I need to help someone. I'm ready. No planks in my eye. I'm looking for motes. I'm inspecting motes. I'm sniffing like dogs. I'm sniffing out motes. I'm a hound dog. Everywhere I go, it's not, no one is receiving me. I am doing everything I can to expand this kingdom. Yeah, you notice there's a lot of eyes going on.
Right, you did say that. You did do
it. Do not give what is holy to the dogs. Jesus has warned us against judgmental attitudes and self-blind criticism. Here he reminds us that he did not mean to imply that the people of the kingdom suspend all discernment. Now, we do have to be careful because, if I say something and it's not received, and, I said a week or so ago in a message to shake the dust off your feet, but I have to make sure that it's rejected before I just throw them away. I have to use discernment. It could have been, in some cases, that I should not have given that anyway. So sometimes I'm upset that they didn't receive it when they weren't going to receive it. I remember once in Tom and Ken's store up on 24th and Capitol. It's not there anymore now. Not there. Went in there and we were talking, and I was talking about the Lord, and it was a Muslim man. He was Nation of Islam. And he got so mad that he said, man, you come outside. I'm gonna show you about this white Jesus you serve. I'm gonna beat him out of you. And he just got belligerent inside the store. I was getting those red wieners. They used to have a red wieners in the back. That was a place where you could get the good country red wieners.
You done went well off the topic, sir.
We were just discussing and talking, and he got so upset or what have you. And so I'm thinking, okay, Lord, what am I gonna do now? Yeah, this man want to fight about you. So I got my sausages and I left out of the store expecting a confrontation. But when I got out of the store, he was not there. He was nowhere around. I mean, he probably thought about it or considered it. But I thought to myself, now I was so gung-ho, so fervent. More than likely, I should have used good discernment. And I did not.
Yeah, but were you talking to him, or were you?
Yeah, we were talking. It was he and I.
Okay.
And I did not. I wasn't listening carefully to know what he was talking about versus me. And so we learned over time. We learned to use discernment.
Right.
And Jesus is just saying, look, if they're just not with it, don't throw it away. Don't throw it away. It says we must learn that there are some good, precious things that should not be given to those who will receive them with contempt.
Yeah, but I've noticed that some people, of different faiths or whatever will come at you, and you're not sure if they're trying to seek information or if they're trying to show their own
Knowledge.
belief, yeah, knowledge and belief system. And then they also think that everybody is really stupid about color and all that stuff in the Bible. And so they come at you like you're real ignorant, and it's like, no, I'm just, you would ask me what if I was Muslim or whatever the case may be, if I was Buddhist, whatever, and I told you no, and then you wanted to challenge what I believe, and I'm not gonna keep standing in front of you. I'm gonna tell you what I believe and move on. And I don't have to, just like you gonna tell me what you believe, we move on. But sometimes people come and they come with that, oh, well, I really want to know, but then they don't really want to know. They just want to get into a confrontation. And the last part I'm making, I'm gonna leave it alone. Last part is I wanted to thank you for bringing that political situation around and showing the politicalness versus humanity and Christian point of view of how they actually are doing in Ukraine, and how that within itself is influencing what people do because they're holding on to those old things of judgment and character that they need to let go. So thank you for that too.
Yes, I think God's going to do it. We certainly are not standing against helping them
Right.
just because they're treating some of the people that look like us in a bad way doesn't give us the right to not want to see them get help. They need help,
Right.
and they need help in the
Right.
way that they're going to get it. And we trust that God's going to take care of us like he always has. Um, again, it's discernment. Sometimes it might not even be worth telling them what you believe or what you think. We have to really try to pray for discernment. It says balance love with discernment. We go into it. We go into it most of the time with a pure heart, with a real intent and a fervency to help. And so we have to quickly come to a place of discernment. Now, again, this sounds like it's a contrast because they just said don't judge. And now this is saying clearly, this verse is saying clearly to make a judgment.
It's basically don't waste. It is saying don't waste your time.
It's saying clearly make a judgment. So we know clearly that the Lord is saying that it's all about attitude, which is what Jesus is talking about here at the very end of his Sermon on the Mount. He's really trying to give us a heavenly perspective through our physical human self. So we really have to try to be spiritual as often as we can.
But again, I know what you're saying spiritual. We do this and it's okay in the natural and the carnal. It's okay to do this.
But we're not going to be in heaven in the natural or the carnal.
Well, I
So
agree.
this is a heavenly attitude.
I understand that's a heavenly attitude.
That's right.
But
that's
it's
why we're working on it.
Sir.
I know what you're saying, because sometimes people do come just kind of like what you were saying, that there has to be some kind of discernment that's sent to us because and that we use, because sometimes people will approach you and you're thinking they're really coming to say, oh, we have to look for a common ground so we can solve the X, Y, and Z problem. But the real issue is I really want to battle and show you that I know more than you do. So I really appreciate that using of discernment part there.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then don't use your time and waste your time when you know or you even observe this person. I mean, it's like if you're saying if you looked at a pig, everybody know what pigs do. Everybody know what this happens with a pig. So why are
Right.
you gonna waste your time and put something precious in a pig's hand when you've been watching the pig or you've studied a pig?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
I can used to be that I could point to women who do this greatly in the physical, but lately women have been slipping. They're not as good as they used to be.
No, you didn't.
It used to be that women just knew. They knew when a fellow wasn't on the up and up, even though he was putting on his best Eddie Haskell. He was doing. I mean, he was.
Well, I gotta be Eddie Haskell.
Mac Daddy. Well, he was clean. He was Mac Daddy all the way.
Okay. Why Eddie
He was
Haskell?
because Eddie Haskell fooled the parents. And so he was doing his best, Eddie Haskell, and women they had a radar. They just knew. They said, oh no, he ain't no good. And he doing all of the right things. But they knew that now, they knew underneath he was a wolf. And so they just had a detector. And so that's why the last bullet point, then I'm going to slip out, y'all, let Dr. Marbley close it out. Jesus did not say this to discourage us from sharing the gospel. Jesus said this to call us to discernment, to encourage us to look for prepared hearts that are ready to receive. Because what we have is precious. Jesus didn't just give it out to everybody, anyone. There were times when they came to him and he said, you generation of vipers and you dogs, I'm not going to give you anything. And Jesus loved everybody and was getting ready to sacrifice for everyone. But he had enough discernment to know
they weren't
who
receptive
genuinely wanted it.
Right.
Yeah, he had enough discernment to know. And so he wasn't going to cast his pearl to swine. He wasn't going to just give what was holy to those who would trample them under their feet and turn and try and use it against you. He wasn't going to do that. Some people receive it with contempt. Some people receive it just to ridicule. And so we have to start employing discernment so that what we have is truly precious and we're not just throwing it around. To go, John Hagee used this example. John Hagee said, if you're a farmer and you have seeds, he says, you're not going to go all up and down the city streets and all up and down the neighborhoods and throw your seeds where there's no field prepared to receive them. He said, think of what we have as precious seeds that you want to get a crop from. He said, then you're careful where to spread your seeds. He said, a farmer is careful to spread his seeds in a prepared land.
Well, all right, Pastor is checking out.
Love you all. Love you
And
all.
love you all. So we will finish up. Let's see. Next week. I'm sorry. Let me stop. He done took off. We'll finish this up next week. So we got through 4 verses today. So we'll finish it off next week. Anybody have anything they'd like to say? All right. If not, then we're asking God to cover us. We're asking God to cover us and watch over us and protect us as we slumber on tonight and wake us, that we'd be running to tell somebody about him, but have some discernment.
Amen.
Amen. Love you all.
Love
Love
you
you all.
too.
Good
Love
night.
you too. Good night, everybody.
Good night.